The German parliamentary elections, or the Bundestag elections, are scheduled for the 25th of February 2025. This will be the fourth snap election in the history of post-war Germany, which was called due to the collapse of Olaf Scholz-led 2024 government crisis. While the race to be the next German chancellor is between four candidates, in the race for the position of member of parliament on the ticket of the CSU is Siddharth Mudgal, the first Indian origin person to contest for the same. If elected, he will create history as the first India-born person to be in the German parliament. Born in Jaipur, Siddharth has been in Germany for 21 years, where he started from a restaurant kitchen in his student days and now contests a high-stake election. Without further ado, let's in fact go straight across to him. Siddharth Mudgal, German election candidate, is joining us now on the broadcast. Welcome, Siddharth. Thank you for being with us. Can you tell us about why you've decided to contest the German elections?
Elections are about celebrating democracy, and I had the opportunity to be an active part of this democracy, and I decided to take up this opportunity due to three reasons. First, I'd like to create local jobs in our country. Secondly, I would like to get Germany back on the map at the very top in terms of innovation. And I am in favor of a qualification-based migration policy. So I'd like to bring in my expertise as a technocrat into restructuring of our country, which it direly needs right now.
Right. Can you tell us a bit more about your journey, Siddharth? Where were you born? What do your parents do? And when did you move to Germany?
Well, I come from a family where my father was in the army. My mother was a teacher in India. I was born in Jaipur, raised all over India because my parents were traveling all the time because of my father's job. And I came to Germany 21 years ago. I came as a student. I did my bachelor's degree in India, my master's degree in Germany. I studied economics at the Humboldt University, which is the University of Berlin. And then I decided to stay here. So originally the plans were I would stay here for about 2 years, 3 years, and then I'll go back to India, but that somehow did not materialize.
Right. What do you think then are the major election issues in Germany that you're focusing on in your campaign?
What we need politicians who are not politicians, but rather technocrats. And for me, this is like the prime part of my election campaign. I'm focusing on three particular topics. I'm focusing on economic growth and creation of jobs in Germany. I'm talking about investments from partner countries like India up to the scale of 10 billion euros per year. And with this, reviving the German economy, creating local jobs in Germany, this is one of my major campaign parts. The second is the German Mittelstand. The German Mittelstand part of, it's basically the small and mid-sized companies. They are the motors of German economy. So 99% of our companies are small and mid-sized companies, and I'd like to introduce certain tax benefits for them if they reinvest in green energy, technology, etc. So that's one of the sections called economic growth and local jobs. The second point I'm focusing on is making Germany again number one in innovation. Now, just to give a small example, the amount of investment which Germany does in digitalization is less than the amount of investment done by the Harvard University in digitalization in terms of euros or dollars. So I would like to set up 5 technology centers all over Germany, focusing on innovation, on green technology, on artificial intelligence, on robotics, etc., so that we are once again a powerhouse of innovation and also digitalization. And very important point, digitalization has never been a strong point in Germany. But if you look at a country like India, where you can do even the smallest amount of payments using Paytm and UPI, this is something Germany can learn from. So we don't always need to reinvent the wheel. We need to learn from other countries outside Europe, within Europe. And third point, which is super important to me, is the demand and skill-based migration. So as you know, migration is raised as a big issue in Germany. First, I think migration is needed in Germany. We need about 500,000 people, skilled, let's say, workforce in Germany, and we are missing that workforce. So the long-term goal of any economy should be creating jobs locally and training staff and people locally so that they're qualified for those jobs. Now in Germany, the demographic change is not positive, which means that we do have a delta which needs to be covered by people from other countries. But in the midterm, at least, this is what we need to focus on. And once again, in the long term, we should strengthen our own educational system. For example, the vocational education in Germany can take up to 4 years. And I'm proposing that this needs to be expedited to 1 to 2 years. So if you see, it's a combination of two things. In the short and midterm, we need influx of migrants from other countries. But in the long term, we need to train our own people here, and irrespective of which country they come from. One important point, part of this migration policy, um, the first and foremost responsibility of any country is the security and safety of the people who are living in that country, irrespective of where they come from. And as you know, there have been a couple of attacks in the past, even weeks. Someone from another country ran with a car into a demonstration, killing two people, a mother and a child. And this is something which is not acceptable. For example, this person who we are talking about was supposed to be deported a long time back to another country, but this did not happen. So Germany needs to expedite its asylum decisions, so as to create space for people who actually are in the need of asylum. So illegal asylum seekers, if I may call it that way, people who have no right for asylum, their cases should be processed super fast. They should be deported. It's our responsibility to help people from other countries who are in need, and we will be taking care of this responsibility as well.
All right, now the economy is certainly a major issue of contention in these elections, with 2 years of GDP decline for the first time in decades. What's your plan to resolve this issue?
There are a couple of aspects which we will need to take care of. One of the aspects is let's say, the inflation part. So the inflation is now decreasing. It has not reached a level which was there 4, 5, 6 years ago, but this is something which we'll need to really take care of. The second thing which we need to take care of, more money in the pockets of the people. So this means, in terms of taxes, we will need to think of structures so that people have more money in their pockets and they're willing to spend more money, which in turn will revive the economy, right? So people have been pausing their investment decisions since months now. If they want to buy a new car, they are thinking, hey, do I really need a car? Can I pause it? So that's another aspect which we need to work on. The third aspect, which I already talked about, is who's the biggest job creator in our country? And as I said, the small and mid-sized companies, they are big job creators. They're actually, frankly, they've been left behind by the politics. And I'm not talking about a particular party, but let's say the development in the last years. We need to cut red tape and bureaucracy. We need to make sure that companies which let's say, bring back jobs from other countries to Germany get tax incentives so that they really have let's say, a stable source of staff. But at the same time, this will revive the economy because it will create more local jobs. And I also talked about the fact that we will need to focus on investment in technologies, which in turn will revive the economy. So I'm talking about a 10% investment bonus. So on every euro which you invest in green technologies or in artificial intelligence, specifically in the small and mid-sized, let's say, companies, the government will top it off with 10% or 10 cents on top. And this will basically give the companies some relief. So these are a couple of ideas. Of course, there are a lot of ideas in the room.
Right. As far as immigration now is concerned, Siddharth, it's not just an issue in Germany, but pretty much around the world. We saw the Munich attack as well, in which you have an immigrant named. How do we stop illegal immigration? Now
I'll take a viewpoint which the party also pursues and works on. Germany has let's say, Europe has a system in which migrants who come to Europe and seek asylum, they need to do it at the port of entry, and not necessarily in a country of their choice. So, for example, if a person is landing in Italy via whichever means, they should be filing for asylum in Italy and not in Germany. And that's what we are working on right now, is to make sure that there are regular checks on the borders in order to make sure that people who are, human trafficking, they are not able to get people inside Germany. So this is about protecting Germany's interests. So this, I think, is the first and foremost key to, you don't let illegal asylum seekers in. Let me correct my words. No one is illegal, just to make sure we understand that, right? But if we process the application in the country of origin as per the European and international rules, that's the first step. The second step, if someone wants to come into Germany, has no documentation available, that's a question, should they be let into the country? The third point, which I talked about, is about quick processing of asylum applications. Sometimes we have applications which are dragged along for years, right? If you look at Switzerland on the other side, they usually process applications and come to a decision by, within 6 months. And this is something which we need to do, not and basically whoever whose application who has no right to stay in Germany after the decision has been taken, they need to go back to the countries where they come from. At the same time, this will create space for people who actually are in dire needs of our support. So that's, I think, a very important point as well. By the way, there's also a discussion going on, how do we handle Syria right now and the people who are from Syria? Just to take a clear stand on that. Syria, Assad is out of Syria right now. A new government is there, but this does not mean stability in the country as of now. So we cannot talk about, everyone who's from Syria should now be moved back to Syria. I don't think it's happening anytime very soon.
All right, and now yours is a story of how legal immigration does wonders as compared to, those who move illegally. What are then your plans to promote legal immigration, perhaps?
So, a couple of points. First of all, the current government has done some very positive changes in this legislature period. So what they have done is they have introduced a so-called opportunity card with which people who have chances and prospects of getting a reasonably good job in Germany in certain areas, they are allowed to come to Germany searching for a job. So they just need to show some funds so that they can self-sustain themselves. They get a visa. If I'm not mistaken, it's a 12-month period where they can search for a job in Germany. So that is, let's say, the first step. And with that, automatically, what we are doing is we are looking at qualified people. Now, where we can really improve it is by ensuring that there's a point-based system. So people are getting certain points based on age, based on qualification, based on the profession which they are in, right? So that, I think, would be an important and good addition. Another important point is companies do not want to wait for 6 months for their visas to be issued for prospective staff, right? So if a company hires someone from India, my ask is that the visa processing should happen within 6 weeks. So from the time point where the application is filed till the time point the person is on board in Germany, it should not take more than 6 to 8 weeks. So that, I think, is a very important point. And third, which is not to be underestimated, education in Germany is free or almost free. And this applies for everyone, irrespective of which country they come from. So, for example, in the US, you have an in-state, out-of-state fee. In the UK, you have a fee for UK nationals and non-nationals. In Germany, this, let's say, difference, it does not exist. And I believe that people coming from foreign countries and living in Germany, studying in Germany, that's the best way to, learn about the culture, learn a new language, and potentially then take the call of if you want to stay in Germany or you want to move to your home country or to another country for that matter of fact. So education is great. That opportunity, I think, is a great bridge for Germany to attract new talent from other countries.
All right. And now what can Indian talent who have previously integrated well in Germany expect when you win?
Well, look, if I win the elections or not win the elections, it's secondary. Most importantly, I'm focusing on community service since 15 years. So I started the German Indian Association, GDIZ, I think it was 2010. In 2016, we started the German Indian Business Forum. These are just instruments to help people, right? So whenever anyone approaches me for help personally, but also, let's say, as an institution, we are always there to help them. What I will be focusing on are the 3 topics which I discussed about, and I think all these topics will benefit the Indian community living in Germany. There's an ask from the Indian community to start a German Indian cultural center, specifically in south of Germany, and even an ask for a temple in South Germany. And I would personally support this ask. Germany is a secular democratic country. Every religion has the freedom to pursue their own, spiritual needs. And as the community grows, and just for some numbers, 20 years ago, we had about 100 to 120,000 Indian citizens right now. Now we have about 300,000 Indian citizens, plus a lot of people like myself who are of Indian origin. Once they settle into the country, they bring a rich culture with themselves and they like to live their culture. And this would be an area where I would like to support as well.
All right. Now, how do Germans see Indians? There are a lot of German companies who obviously do hire Indian engineers as well.
When I came to Germany more than 20 years ago, the focus on India was about snake charmers, Indian dresses, Indian culture. I think specifically since 2014, 2015, since Prime Minister Modi is there, there's a great change in the perception which India has. We are seeing that we have technocrats, for example, Dr. S. Jaishankar as the foreign minister of India, who are really pushing for, let's say, revival of the image of India, and they have been very successful at that. And this is really impacting Germany as well, and the perception which Germany and Germans might have of India. Just to give an example, 15, 20 years ago, we usually had a lineup of Indian government bodies, Indian companies for investment into India. Now, even though that's still a very relevant topic, what has changed is there are a lot of German companies now going to India and asking for investment into Germany. So that's a very big change. And this has to do something with the perception of India being a powerhouse of innovation, a powerhouse of talent. The number of visas for Indians has been increased to 90,000 per year. The German Chancellor, Olaf Scholz, was in India a couple of months back. So the partnership has strengthened, and this has strengthened because of the hard work done by the Indian political leadership, but also the great innovation which is coming from Indian companies and Indian people.
All right, now you've been in a leadership management role in BMW, and Germany's auto industry has always been one that the world envies. What is the reason that behind this car crisis then, and what are your plans to fix it?
Look, we have to understand one thing. Cars, Germans are passionate about cars, and this is visible in the number of brands we have, the great brands, be it Porsche, BMW, Mercedes-Benz. So these are brands which have been very successful, but they need to equip themselves for the modern times. For example, the e-mobility part, some of the companies have been left far behind in it. Other companies like BMW, because you mentioned about them, they're working actually in hydrogen technology. So in terms of innovation, they are okay. They are making the right steps in the right direction. But the question is the innovation fast enough? That, I think, remains a very important question. So if you look at brands like BYD and some other brands from China, for example, and Tesla, for that matter of fact, they might not have the best cars, but the speed at which they're bringing in innovation and technology into the car is phenomenal. And right, the models are changing. A company like Tesla, they have their own factories, but theoretically they could even hire a third party to build cars for them. So the speed of innovation is a key aspect to that. The third important point is where are the cars being manufactured, right? So there are certain restrictions around local content manufacturing. So, for example, a country might say, hey, if you want to sell cars in my country, X percentage of the car's supply chain, value chain has to come from our country. And those are restrictions. The markets are getting more restrictive. And actually, the car companies have already kind of adjusted to it. So BMW, for example, has a couple of factories in China. They are setting up new plants. And I think that will be a key to success, lowering the costs in the supply chain so that the cars also become more affordable for the markets which are not saturated yet. So, for example, in India, BMW, if I'm not mistaken, sells about between 12,000 to 14,000 cars per year. Looking at the size of the Indian economy, this is nothing. It's peanuts, the number of cars which they're selling there. And this could be increased if there's more manufacturing from BMW in India. Right now, they import basically completely knocked down kits and assemble the cars. But if they are moving more into local value chain, using more suppliers locally, instead of importing parts from other countries, this will actually lower the cost of the car, increase the affordability in big markets like India, China, where people would like to afford a BMW.
Yes. And what is your outlook on India-Germany ties? You know, trade has increased to about $26 billion. Where do you think further collaboration can happen?
I think I more or less outlined the industries, right? So one of the industries where India is really big right now is manufacturing sector. And as you know, there's a lot of manufacturing shifting from China to India. And this is one area where, companies could do more in India. I'll take an example of a semiconductor company called Infineon, one of the market leaders. They have a research and development center in India since a long, long, long time. And the question is, companies like them, what are the incentives which they need to invest more in India and even have a manufacturing site in India? So that's, I think, one of the sectors, manufacturing per se, and I gave an example of the semiconductor and high-tech industry. The second important area could be more incoming talent from India to Germany in the sector of digitalization. So you see, 20 years ago, we were talking about software development, right? Now we are not talking only about software development, we are talking about how digitalization can improve the lives of people. And this is an area where Germany is quite far behind. And I think this is another sector where Germany could learn from India. The third sector which comes to my mind is everything around green energy, but specifically solar energy. So I don't know if you're aware, but the biggest chunk of, let's say, the manufacturing of solar panels for Germany happens in China. And this is an area where India, I know that a couple of companies are working on this topic, for example, Avada Energy in India. This could be a sector where India could actually offer a lot of value to Germany. And this is something which we should also look at as well. And then there are some other sectors, for example, aerospace, specifically drone technology, where India is making big progresses.
All right.
But at the same time, Germany is also making
absolutely,
big progresses.
Siddharth. Now, there's finally a race, a global AI race, in fact, after DeepSeek's launch. You mentioned tech hubs in your manifesto as well. What do you think Germany needs to do? And how do you see India's push for democratization of AI technology?
Good question, tough question. I think here specifically, India is between two big powers. On one side, we have the US, where the president has, promised a big investment in AI, and on the other side, we have a big investment coming in from China and their own AI platforms. And I think this is an area India needs to invest on. I did hear some time back that the founder of Ola has started an AI platform themselves. And this, for me, is a big step towards democratization. Why? Because we are making certain platforms more available to the Indian population, right? And for example, I do use AI regularly, or ChatGPT for that matter of fact, but some other tools as well. And I think the democratization will happen with accessibility to more such technology, example, Ola. And second thing, the schooling system should focus more on practical technologies, for example, AI. And I was pleasantly surprised as I talked to the son of my cousin, who said that he is going to enter the 11th grade and his specialization will be in artificial intelligence. And that's something which I think will take a long time. My daughter is 14. She does not have such options, but it seems India is making the right steps in the right direction to make technology accessible.
All right.
But at the same time,
well, wishing you all the very best, Siddharth Mudgal. Thank you very much for joining us with your perspective on, of course, these elections and the issues you're standing on. Wish you all the best for the road ahead.